Welcome to Living Ardently. I'm your host, Adrian Giraldi, and welcome to our anniversary podcast. Guys, it's been 1 year and I'm just still in awe. This is crazy to me. Crazy. I'm excited. We have so much to talk about. We're going to debrief this entire year. We're going to look over our first episode that we ever had, and we're going to reintroduce the podcast, kind of give it a new mission statement. It just feels like a whole new season, but it's not. It's just a whole new year. We got to talk about it. So it's the first episode with just me for a while, but we got a lot to talk about. So let's get into it. My gosh, people. If you have been listening from day one, I just want to say thank you so much for your support, for your listens. It's been, whether you're my friend or not, just thank you. I'm greatly appreciative of all of you being with us on this journey of 1 year. I want to say that a year ago, I thought I'd be doing this for a year. But I don't know if I expected myself to get to this point. So, thank the Lord. Praise the Lord. Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Adrian Giraldi. I'm a youth ministry coordinator here in Orlando, Florida. And I love ministry, and I love getting to know people and hearing their stories and being vulnerable. And so this podcast kind of just has evolved into that. You know? And so, yeah, it has evolved a lot in this past year, and we've done such great things. But I want to start off by kind of revisiting the first episode, and I thought it would be really fun. So why don't we just take some clips? I'm not going to listen to the entire thing because it's about 20 minutes, but there's some key points in here that I want to listen to with y'all. And just kind of get a reaction and talk to you guys. Because I always say, the first episode, I mean, as nostalgic as it wasn't the best episode for us, but it was fun. I'll continue reintroducing the podcast in a little bit. But let's get into this first episode of Living Ardently, which was posted on June 3rd, 2019. I had no idea what I was doing, but I started. So here we go. Hi, welcome to the Living Ardently podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Giraldi, and this is our very first podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about what Living Ardently is going to be about, who I am, and a little reflection about perseverance, something I know we all need to hear. So, stay tuned and we'll be getting right into it. As all good introductions start, let me introduce myself. My name is Adrian Giraldi, like I said. I'm a Catholic youth minister here in Central Florida. I just said that. And I graduated from Ave Maria University back in 2017. And I've been in ministry since October of 2017. I've been doing youth ministry for a long time, volunteer work and stuff like that. I'm very active in my youth group as a high school senior. Had a conversion in my summer before my senior year. And have been in the faith, had my reconversion then and have been going at it since then. So I graduated from Ave, like I said, in 2017, where I was a member of the faith
real quick,
house.
This is a good part, so I'll continue.
Called Ardent Virtues, which translates to passionate virtue or fiery virtue. My household had a lot of great pillars and has taught me a lot to be how to be a man and how to be a great Catholic man at that. And so the reason why my my blog post slash podcast is called Living Ardently, was to pay homage to that, to continue after graduation to always live an ardent life, to continue to be virtuous, be on fire, be joyful for the faith. If you're
Right.
not familiar, I did start the blog site first.
All right, so let's start off with this choice of music. The choice of music was it was straight out of like a video game of Grand Theft Auto like 5 or whatever. It just sounded like or Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. It was crazy. I don't know why I chose it. I guess I just thought it fit my character or who I was trying to portray myself as. I wasn't really sure. I also was just really into hip hop instrumentals at the time, just listening to them. So that might have been it. But I just like, oh yeah, this is it. This is the mood I want to set the podcast with, and it just like set it as like, oh, so relaxed, so chill, and I don't know if that's like the vibe I was going for. I really didn't know anything that I was trying to do. For those who don't know, I started Living Ardently as a blog site, which is still available, which I'm trying to transfer all of the Instagram posts that we have onto blog form. But right now it's kind of tough with everything I'm trying to juggle. But I have a little bit more time now this summer, so maybe it'll happen. And I think I'm going to get into a little part of it here where I started as a blog site. So I had this logo already made. And I basically just took that logo that I made and I slapped it on a free photo of like a wood palette that I liked. For those of you watching on YouTube, you'll see our old logo right here, or our old album, our podcast cover looked like. It was just simply thrown together within like minutes, just for the sake that I would have a podcast cover. And I stuck with it for a whole season, for 25 episodes. And a lot of the times when I was recording like at night, like I am now, but like really late at night, and people were sleeping in the house, so I would like be whispering, and it just, I don't know why, I just thought it was a good idea to do that. I just try to take it way too serious. So that first like few episodes, I'm like reviewing my blog post and like kind of making podcasts out of them. Kind of revisiting them and stuff like that. And I don't know, just the vibe that I gave off. It's not what I really wanted to give off per se. It just kind of happened. So it was quite interesting the first few episodes. And yeah, so we'll continue here. Just going to skip a little forward. Like I said, I want to go through the entire podcast because I don't want to do it. Y'all don't want to do that. We're just going to skip through it. If you want to listen to the entire podcast, the first episode, you can go yourself.
Anyway, I wanted to start this podcast because, with my blog post, the reason why I started the blog post is because I wanted to get some content out there.
Right.
A month or 2 months into my job, I just wanted
also
to
thought
get
I was a good writer.
I don't know, some thoughts out. And so I did. I started a blog post, wrote a bunch of stuff down, and posted it.
Right.
Now, I realized just recently how easy it is to actually make a podcast. I had a mic, I had a pop filter, I had all these equipment, but
I also thought writing was super easy, but it's not. And I wrote one thesis, and then here I am thinking that I'm the best writer and I can start a blog site. Not that you have to be the best writer to start a blog site, but you know what I mean. Like, I don't know. It was just a bad writer.
but never really utilized it to its potential until one of my friends, Tanya Macias, and I started a podcast last week, actually. And I was like, wow, this is super easy. And today I had nothing to do, so here I am, turned on the mic, turned on the computer, turned on GarageBand, and I am here recording a podcast.
Right.
So here I am. Here at this podcast, I am going to be just kind of similar to what my blog post is. Not actually sure, but I'm just going to be sharing my faith and my day-to-day reflections or something like that.
Okay, so I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I said, I was just bored one day, and I was like, you know what? I know how to record the podcast. I have the mic. Let me show you the mic that I was using. So this mic is what I was using for the first episode. It's called a Samsung Go mic. Not a Samsung Go mic. And it was pretty cool. I got it back when I was in high school to like record music with my friends.
It's a little small, like clippable USB cord. You can put it, like clip it to your MacBook theoretically, and you can change it from omnidirectional to cardioid. I can't say that word. To omnidirectional to directional mic, and then you can monitor it here. But I had it and I started recording it, and yeah, I was just bored, guys. And this is what happened. There was no direction, and I just I just wanted to try it out, and I tried it, and it went, and I just kind of continued to post every Monday because I had nothing better to do with my life at that point. So, anyway, let's continue.
I mean, I'm not going to do this every day. I don't got time for that. I'm a youth minister. You guys know that if you're a youth minister.
Yeah, I can't do this every day.
I'll read something from my first blog post that I ever written. It says, to be honest, I still have a vague idea of what I will be writing about in this blog, but I'll let the Holy Spirit decide as we go. So bear with me. What I do know is that I want to promote exactly what the title suggests, living ardently, or / passionately for our all good and loving God.
Right.
So let's look at this. Let's look to the saints as examples to see how we can grow deeper in love with God. Let's look to the scriptures so that we can understand how much God actually loves us.
Right.
And let's look around us and at our lives and find what needs to happen or change so that we can live authentically ardent lives. I want to just be out here sharing what I share sometimes with my teens or whatever come up in my mind, in my young adult groups, whatever the case may be, and just put it out there, and hopefully it turns out well. So we'll see. My other podcast with Tanya is called Off the World.
So, again, there was really no direction, and I was just trying because I knew that I had the equipment, and I was like, you know what? If it doesn't work out, so what? But I learned a lot. I learned a ton just trying and figuring it out and trying to, make the podcast good. So with that quote, like I wrote that in my like intro blog and it was titled like, why am I writing this? I really didn't know why am I doing this because I knew that I wasn't a good writer. But I was writing anyway for this blog. And, slowly I realized that, hey, I'm better at speaking to my teens and speaking when I do ministry than I do when I write. So why don't I just start a podcast? And I mean, seeing how easy it was to start one kind of just grew the desire for me to want to make a podcast. And I just shot my shot. So no direction at all, but just kind of testing the waters. I knew that test or fail. Like if I fail, like it's okay. Like I'm not gonna be heartbroken. I'm just trying it out for the first time. So it was pretty cool. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the lessons that I learned because there was a lot that it takes to like put into a podcast to make it good and to make it something that somebody wants to listen to. And I've learned a lot. And usually when I do episodes by myself, people don't listen to them, people do listen to it, just not like a lot of them compared to when I have guests. So we'll get into that later on, but that's something that's going to change. There aren't going to be many episodes where it's just me. And if there is, I'm going to be trying to do a lot of stuff. So, all right, we'll continue there. I got one more part in here that I want to show off or revisit, and it's 7 minutes in here.
We have to face it, but any case, in last month, the month of May, on social media, you should follow, if you're not following already, The Living Person.
Right.
They they have a great mission, Ignatian spirituality, very low-key Catholic, but they're awesome because they promote people becoming better people. Go look at their mission. It's amazing. Jarrell does a great job in promoting things that he wants to promote and promoting the right things, Right. So go check it out. The Living Person I think it's at the living.person on Instagram.
I might be wrong, but go check it out. Anyway, they recently just did
So I bring that up because it's crazy how on the first episode of Living Ardently, I was already like, you can see how it was. I mean, this first episode is completely inspired by the Living Person's A Mile a Day in May challenge, which I had taken. And that's where the latter half of the episode goes, where I go into the lesson that I learned doing the Mile a Day in May and kind of like preaching perseverance and how it relates to our spiritual life and stuff like that. So I really was trying to be more of a way of putting out the lessons that I would teach my teens into a podcast is what kind of like, not the intention, but it's kind of how it was going for a while. And I was like, like, this is great. This is a good way, but like, why do I want, like, who's going to want to listen to just a bunch of Catholic talks all the time, So I was like, I need to change something. So I need to have guests and talk about things that they were passionate about. So that's where I started to shift mid like first few episodes after I ran out of blog posts and things to talk about. It just became things that I wanted to talk about, things that I found I was passionate about, or things that I really found interesting. So that's kind of how it shifted. And then I started having people on come talk about what they were interested in and what they liked, So yeah, so that's what the rest of this happens. And it's crazy that, even Jarrell and the Living Person was mentioned in the first episode, and now he's a co-host. For those of you who don't know, Jarrell, who is in charge of the Living Person Instagram, is the co-host here for Living Ardently. He does Q&As monthly with us, but we're going to try to switch it up and see if we can do like a whole episode on one question and just dive into it, because some of these questions that we get asked on these Q&A episodes are really deep and can't be justified in one, like in an episode where we're trying to answer multiple podcasts. So we'll see how that goes. We're still working those kinks. So that first episode was really rough. And in the first few episodes, you can just see like how the vibe was a lot different than it is now. And I'm trying to, you kind of like take that identity of like that first season, the first half of that first season, where I was just very solemn and very quiet, to something where it was more vibrant, more like interesting. I don't know. I'm not ashamed of what happened, but there's definitely like, oh man, we could have done this a lot better. And we learned together. So that's really cool. So if you listen from the first episode from there, thank you. If you haven't listened to the first episode and you really want to, you can. But just start season 2. Start at season 2. That's kind of where I found my niche and made those changes. So yeah, before we go on, I want to take a quick break here. We're gonna later on in the episode, we're gonna talk about we're gonna recap this year. We're gonna redefine living ardently together, and we're going to talk about the goals for the rest of the year. So yeah, we'll be right back. You, that person there looking at me. Maybe you're not looking at me. Maybe you're listening on the podcast. So if you're listening on the podcast, look at me, imagine me looking at you and you looking back at me. Got it? Cool. This slot is available for anybody who wants it. Right now, I'm just using it for myself, but if you want to chat and talk about team up, it doesn't have to cost anything. But if you want to team up and have a little ad here for yourself, for your small shop, whatever, talk to me. Send me a DM, send me an email. We can work it out. I really love to collab with people. So yeah, right now, this slot is just for me to kind of give you guys an opportunity. Like usually on the Anchor, if you're listening on the podcast, so yeah, you're looking at me because the podcast listeners don't see this. So if you want to advertise through Living Ardently, hit me up, send me a DM, we'll talk it out. But if you've been enjoying this podcast and you want to support the podcast, do me a favor. And yeah, if you have like extra couple dollars laying around, send them my way so we can do stuff with the podcast. I don't know. It's up to you. You don't have to. It's just a suggestion. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. But if you have a couple of dollars and you want to share with me and the podcast, go and send them down to our Anchor link down below where you can support the podcast monthly.
$1, $2, $3, $4, $5. Buy a cup of coffee, save a cup of coffee, give it to me. I don't drink coffee. All the money that you bring to the podcast goes straight back to the podcast and the production of it. So yeah, you could be one of the very first supporters if you do it. If you want to advertise here, I'll do better than what I'm doing right now. Anyway, let's get back to the episode. All right, so we're back. It's still crazy. It still blows my mind that we're 1 year in. Just kind of looking back at season 1 this past week, just realizing like, wow, there's been so much growth. Looking back at the first season, the first 25 episodes, kind of seeing like, wow, like there was some really good moments in there, and there was some really like boring stuff. Not when, especially when it was just me, not when I was with people, but there were some episodes where I was like, man, I was really reaching there. And I remember there's episodes where there was weeks where I was like, man, I don't really know what to talk about today, or this week, and da 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 da. And I was feeling as if like, man, I don't think this is something I want to do for a long time. And I think it was just because the way I was going with it, like the way the style of the style of the podcast just wasn't like how I naturally am. And I knew that if I wanted to love it as much as I love other stuff, it's like, it's got to be a ministry that I enjoy. And how I enjoy doing ministry is like talking to people, meeting people, knowing their story. So I had to make that change. My first season was just a bunch of solo sporadic shows. Sometimes I would have guests. There was no planning whatsoever. There's sometimes where I had towards the end where I had like, oh yeah, I have guest here, and it's going to be a bunch of guests. It's going to be really fun. But it just wasn't planned well. So I knew I wanted to change that the second season. I wanted to have more of a schedule. I wanted to be a little bit more structured with the ability to manipulate as I desired if I needed to. After talking with Jarrell from The Living Person, I also learned like, I need to crank up the social media post and get better at it, and not just like be so like easy with it, just make a bunch of posts and then write sloppily. So he helped me like got the idea to ask friends to write for the Instagram. As I put a plea out and nobody really did, so I had to like individually invite those. Some of them actually did reach out, but like I wanted to individually ask those who I knew it would be good writers to share their hearts. So I sent it out, and wow, what blessings did I get to have such a great team. So shout out to Joe, Delaney, Jessica, Tanya, and Regina for always giving your heart to the post and being honest in your posts for the Instagram, because I 100% attribute a lot of the growth that we've had in this past few months to you guys for your consistency in writing and your honesty in your writing. I think that really speaks out to the followers and the listeners who are hurting and who are needing to hear these words of affirmation from people who are just like them. So praise the Lord for that team, for the team that we have. And speaking of Jarrell, Jarrell is now a co-host and helps us out, like I said earlier, with the Q&A episodes, because it's apparently an episodes you guys love to listen to, and I love to ask good questions for. So we're gonna keep those up, and sometimes we're gonna have episodes where it's just us answering one question and going at it, and hopefully it turns out well, but we'll see. It's just something that we thought that it could be a possibility. So the growth from the first season to the second season has been crazy, because like the first season was all just friends of mine, except for Koji. Koji I met through the Living Person's Mao Day and May Challenge, and we kind of reconnected. And Koji de Ramos actually works for the Culture Project, for those of you who don't know. And shout out to Koji. Go give him a follow. Amazing guy, and super honest and super funny. And yeah, so if you want to go listen to his first episode, I think that was like one of my favorite episodes of season 1. It's because it was with somebody who was really fun and really serious at the same time. So if we're going to season 1 where it was just sporadic, to go into season 2 where it was more structured, having like redesigning the podcast cover to like brand myself with the maroon and tiled pattern in the Instagram and stuff like that, I think was like essential to kind of like really create the brand for Living Ardently and what that meant, and kind of like continue to go forward with it. And we'll continue to talk about what ardently means so in a little bit, but in any case, it was really important for me to kind of like to make a distinction of the change, and then show that this podcast was headed into a direction that it kind of naturally progressed into the end of season one. Like, for example, like this past month, we did this May of collabs, which we ended up calling the COVID collabs, which is crazy because I got to shoot, like, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just shoot my shot through the motivation of like Jarrell again helping me, like, hey, like the worst they can say no, the worst that they can say is no, so shoot your shot. So I did with some big Catholic Instagrammers, some big Catholic podcasters that I listened to, that I looked up to, and then some smaller companies that, you know, I thought were awesome. You know, it didn't have to be like thousands and thousands of followers for me to like want to reach out to them. I got to reach out to them even though they had like maybe 1,000 followers or 2,000 followers, whatever the case. I mean, I only had 200 followers. Nobody's gonna like really gain that much from me. But all of them said yes, except for like maybe 2 or 3 people who never responded to my DMs, which is completely fine. And I got Taylor Schroll on the podcast, Edmund Mitchell on the podcast. You guys, Bosco Beats, reconnected with him, Queen, Meg Wells, which was really great, and Amanda Pasawa Lee from City on the Hill Co., like an artist, Connor Flanagan, great people. And what a blessing that was, because between that, I grew, I think, 200 some followers. I was at 200 something, and at this end, at the beginning of June, I'm around 450 something, which is crazy to me, because like the growth between the first season was only like 20, 30, 40 people maybe. And then within this month, I gained so much more followers because of the support and, you know, collabing with people. And it was awesome. What a blessing, because I got to make these connections with people I originally wouldn't have. And I have more people that I've reached out to that are coming later this month. And it's going to be really fun. I've made a lot of connections through this. I just really enjoy it, y'all. It's just been a blessing. But another thing I wanted to do today was kind of redefine living ardently. I know some people, like Taylor was asking, if you listen to the Forte Catholic, he's like, I don't know what ardently means. And he's like, this okay. He probably doesn't know what Forte means. And we had this conversation through text. It was really funny. But this I thought it would be really good to kind of redefine what living ardently means, especially define ardently, and kind of go back to our original mission statement and kind of revamp it with you guys. So I thought about it. What does living ardently means? Like I said if you heard in the first episode earlier, I said that living ardently was inspired and to pay homage to my household at Ave Maria, which was called Ardens Virtus, which means like translated to fiery virtue or passionate virtue, right? So ardent is defined as passionate, enthusiastic, with zeal. So like having some sort of passion with that. To live ardently, you really don't need to be Catholic. You just have to want to live with passion that you have. Like you just want to live passionately. And you can do that in however you desire. And for us Catholics, it's passion for the Lord, usually. And it's portrayed in different ways, like different ways. So people all over the world are living ardently and they don't even realize. And so living ardently, I think, was just such an easy choice for me to choose like the title, because I want to live passionately. I want to live ardently, and I want to help people do the same. And how do we do that? I think a lot of how we, learn how to live passionately and live is from other people's stories, right? From other people's motivation, from their trials and their errors and then their successes, right? And so what I have enjoyed was the interviews with people who are doing the same, who are trying to do the same. So I was like, that's kind of what it's kind of turned into, especially with the COVID collabs, where I just freaking got like so much joy from getting to meet all these awesome people and hear their stories. So that's the direction I feel like I want to start going, and really like make this like a podcast where I get to hear people's story. to how they were living an ardent life, so I can help myself learn from them, and then hopefully in turn you all learn from them as well. And so like I was like, okay, well then we need to revisit this mission statement that I have for the podcast, because right now it has just a youth minister sharing his thoughts and experiences on how to live an ardent life. Whether accompanied with a friend, a guest, or alone, the hope is to help, inspire, and entertain all who listen. I love that last part. But the first part really is like, it's not just me anymore. You know, it's me with people. It's like, so I needed to figure that out. So, and I was talking to some people on how I could like redefine the statement. And I was like, really, I think they're like, you got to pray about it. You got to figure out where you want to go. Where has it been going? What has the trends of your podcast and been taking you? So I kind of prayed about it as, all right, Lord, how can I word this then? And so I came up with this, and let me know what you guys think. I think I like it. So the new mission statement would say, to live ardently means to live passionately, enthusiastically, and with zeal. So our mission as a podcast is to help you do that by sharing stories of others who are trying to do the same. So our hope is to help, inspire, and or entertain all who listen. So let's live ardently. So I think that really sums up where I want to go and what the podcast has kind of been turning into, kind of sharing the stories of others who are also trying to do the same thing, who are trying to live ardently, who are living passionately, whether for the Lord or for music or for, whatever the case may be, or for both, whatever, art, Jesus in general, like the different ways that people are living an ardent life, a passionate life towards whatever it is. And most of the times I'm going to have people who are Catholic because, I'm Catholic. I love it. All my Christian brothers and sisters, you're welcome to be here. We're going to talk to people. It's not like I haven't talked to Christians on the podcast. I have just regular, I have people who are not Catholic who have been on the podcast, and I will have more. But obviously I have a desire and an attraction to the Catholic Church. And not that I'm blinded by that's the only people that I'm going to talk to, but I'm going to trend towards them. But we'll have more guests who are trying to live ardently in different ways in their lives. So hopefully we'll be able to get to that point. But, obviously I geek out and reach out to those who do live ardently via the Catholic Church, So anyway, that's the goal. And speaking of goals, the last part of this episode, I really wanted to talk about what the goals are for the rest of the year. I know 2020, I'm like usually an optimist about the years. Like, everyone's like, 2019 sucks, 2018 sucks. And I'm just like here, like, 2019, it was great. 2018, it's great, blah, blah, blah. And for the first time, like, I feel like, 2020 has been really, really sucky. With everything that's been going on from the beginning of the year, like all the talk about World War III, the Australian fires, Kobe dying, and then COVID, and now like all the things going on over in Minnesota. Rest in peace, George Floyd. We need justice. Anyway, the goal again for this year, for the rest of the year, is to continue this trend of getting to know people through Instagram, getting to meet people who are living passionately on Instagram and having them on the show, inviting them on and talking to them and getting to hear their story and sharing their stories with you and with myself so that I can learn what the Lord's trying to do in my heart or how I can continue to grow, I want to continue doing the Q&As with Jarrell and have more questions so that we can do this. Maybe we'll do live sessions. I don't know. I just want to be able to help you all answer these questions. And like Jarrell said, it's really important to ask these questions because these questions are what's going to help you learn your faith more. I tell my teens all the time, I don't want you to just believe our teachings just because we say so. I don't want you to just blindly follow. I want you to follow and know the truth of the Lord. However that means, if you're asking questions that you feel like are stupid or questions that you feel like no one's going to have the answer to, ask those questions. It's what's going to help us learn, right? So ask. Don't be afraid to sound silly or whatever. I promise you there's no silly question. I know they say that all the time in school, but even more so about our faith, you know? So another thing is I want to continue to grow the Living Ardently team. Right now I have the writers and my co-host, but I want to have more co-hosts. I would love to have a co-host for every episode. So the days where I don't have a guest, like I don't have to do something like this. And not that I don't mind. I mean, it's great, but I would just love to have more people on, you know? It's just, I love talking to people, like I said. So we'll see how that works out. But I would also love to have writers. I would love to have people who want to edit the audio and video for the podcast, you know, who would like to make the Instagram posts, to design them. Like, I would love that. So if anybody of you are interested in doing that, I can't offer you money, but I can offer you experience. I can teach you. I can do whatever I can. What I know, I don't know a ton, but I know a lot from what I've learned throughout the years of designing classes and doing TV and film in high school, and all the marketing experience I've learned while working at Ave. Like, I've learned a lot. I just feel like I know a lot about a lot of different things. So I'll teach you what I do know. So if you're interested in doing something like that, let me know. Hit me up. Send me a DM. We'll make it work. Send us a Gmail. Send us an email. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. However you want to contact me. You can call me on this number right here too. 407-853-2010. And you can send me a text message, give me a call, and we'll make it happen. Like I said, don't be afraid to ask, and don't back away from a challenge. You know what I mean? So if you want, I want to grow this team. If you want to be part of it, let me know. Another cool thing that I want to do, I don't know if it'll happen this year, but I would love to like make merch, not just for the podcast sake, but like merch that's going to help you live ardently, to like show your passion for it. So like whether it's stickers that you can put like on your water bottle, or if it's something that like prayer cards or reminders, something, I don't know, things that will help you like really continue on this journey of living ardently. Whether that's like having a t-shirt that, you know, has a really inspirational quote, or a design that reminds you of your zeal for the Lord. I don't know. It's a bunch of, or a cell phone case. It's just so much ideas of what I would love to do. I just don't know if it's even, you know, if there's a need, because there's so many great other Catholic accounts and Christian accounts that have great stuff like that already. So I'll pray about it, but it'll be really cool because some of you know my first passion project was making t-shirts that had the word redeemed on it and Isaiah 43:1 on the back, because that was the quote that redeemed me. I mean, that, you know, reminded me of the Lord's love, and, you know, it was a big part of my conversion. So Isaiah 43:1, you are redeemed. I would also love to create more YouTube exclusive content so we can raise like the attention over at YouTube and get more followers there, subscribers there. Love to grow the podcast more listeners, bigger following on Instagram. But again, it's not all about the numbers. I just love doing what I'm doing right now, and it's really fun and I enjoy it. So however the Lord takes care of it, it does. But it would be cool to make some more YouTube exclusive content for that stuff. And I would also love to make a Patreon, but I don't know if like I have time to commit to making more content for the Patreon. So we'll see. I'll pray about it. I mean, I know I talk about the Anchor like way of supporting, and I always say that I want to start a Patreon, but again, let's grow our team first and see how much I'm able to do, and then we'll talk about it then. But it's a goal of mine for the next year. But yeah, I think that's it, y'all. Man, like, it's been great. I really hope that you continue to listen to the podcast. Next week we have a great guest. It's gonna be really fun. It's gonna be a great episode. I'm also gonna try to streamline this like outro here, so make sure you subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, make sure you like it, rate and review the podcast on Apple, follow on Google, Spotify, everywhere else that you listen to podcasts, and follow the Instagram account at Living Ardently. Follow my personal account at It's Only Adrian, and go follow my writers. They're awesome people. Jessica, Regina, Delaney, Joe, Tanya, amazing people, and we're gonna have them on the podcast soon to kind of meet the writers and stuff like that. And if you want to be one of them, again, send me a DM, send me an email, whatever you want. I'd love to hear from you if you're interested. Make sure you check our blog site out, and yeah, that's it. YouTube, subscribe, like, review, or comment, whatever. I love you guys. Thank you so much for your support this entire year. If you're new, welcome. Again, I'm Adrian Graldi. I'm a youth minister who just loves talking to people. And I really hope that you join us for the ride to learn how to live an ardent life, to kind of see how people are living ardently. And I hope you are living an ardent life too. So until next week, y'all, again, and to end it again, I just want to restate our new mission statement. To live ardently is to live with passion, enthusiastically, and with zeal. So our mission as a podcast is to help you do that by sharing the stories of those who are trying to do the same. So our hope is to help inspire and or entertain all those who listen. So thanks for listening, y'all. Thank you for 1 year, one great and amazing year. Let's keep growing together, keep listening, and until next time, keep living ardently. Peace! 1 year! Crazy. Wow. Thank you, Lord.